What is going on, everyone? How are you doing? I hope you're doing good, because it is good to feel good. You joined me bright and early this morning because I'm always up raring to go this time in the morning whenever I go on my travels. But anyway, we are heading this morning to Albania. We're going to another new country, and then as part of this trip we're also going to be doing a day excursion that also includes Kosovo and North Macedonia. So we've got a few countries on this trip, so that sounds pretty cool to me. And before I may as well mention as well, just before I leave, is that I have finally managed to nab a hotel room with a view. And yeah, it's a nice little view of Heathrow Airport just over there. And yeah, like, you know, enough times of trying, and I finally paid off, so happy days there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this trip. I've got quite a few fun days planned out in Albania, and the day excursion that we do to Kosovo and North Macedonia as well. So let's enjoy this trip, let's have a good time, and let's take you along for the ride. So without further ado, let's go to Heathrow and let's get going. Alright, we have made it to Heathrow Terminal 5. What's really quite nice is the fact that, you know, I always talk about like the nostalgia of being here, and especially when I used to come here when I was younger, like to see my dad off when he'd go on his business trips and all sorts, and also in turn whenever we would fly out to Kuwait. But I've been here quite a few times in recent years. In fact, it was this time 2 years ago that I went to Philadelphia ahead of WrestleMania 40. And then it was this time last year I was here with my mum when we went to Belgium. This time around I'm here just by myself. I'm a lone wolf today on my travels, which I'm sure you guys may know. I do like my solo travels. But also it's worth mentioning as well is that with it being the 6th of April today, I always considered this day 14 years ago as like kind of like the birth of my love of travelling. So when I was on a school trip with my school in Kuwait, we went to Thailand. So I've talked about this like on the channel before, but that trip to Thailand is what I think invigorated my love of travelling. And I do wish actually one day to get back to Southeast Asia, so hopefully we get there soon enough. Anywho, I'm just now going to head through security, and then we're going to go head on, get some breakfast, and then just chill about until we get on our flight to Tirana. Of course, I know it's like 6 in the morning or something like that, but you know, you're travelling, you got to treat yourself, got a raspberry mojito, why not? Okay, so we're now sat at the gate. We're shortly going to be boarding the flight, and it's that age-old thing of, because it's a full flight, got to check in our little wheelie suitcases, but thankfully it's completely free of charge, so can't complain there. Also thought it's worth mentioning that this trip to Albania, and by extension Kosovo and North Macedonia, is the first time I'm travelling on my new passport, which, still in my unpopular opinion, I do not like the design, but I digress. Thanks for that, Boris. But yeah, no, I knew obviously it was coming up for renewal, but then looking back on, say, the last 10 years overall, the amount of travels, and then, like, you know, I've got all the stamps to look at in my old passport, so it's going to be nice to, over the next 10 years, pick up some new stamps and whatnot in this new passport. Seems a bit unconventional to board the plane from the back, but that's what we're doing today. I feel surprisingly tired when I'm trying to record here, so if I fall off, then you'll understand why. Anyway, we're sat in our seat, we've got the usual, we've got the window seat, we're happy, we're raring to go, and I'll see you in Tirana. There's something really nice and satisfying about getting off the plane in a nice warm country, and that's how it's feeling right now. It feels lovely. It's 21 degrees right now as well, which is beautiful. Also, landing here in Albania, this is country 25 on my list of countries, and by the end of this week I'll have ticked off a few more of the countries as well in the Balkans. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go through arrivals now, pick up the suitcase, and I've got my driver waiting for me on the other side. So yeah, let's go do that. Okay, so we have checked into the hostel, and I'm the only one who's here right now, so this is why I can talk the way I am and not interrupt anybody about their day. But I thought I might as well just go onto the balcony quickly and just check out the nice lovely view, lovely lot of trees and a very busy street down below. But so far it's a lovely day here in Tirana. But I tell you what I am going to do, I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit exhausted for a few reasons. One, I had a very early start this morning, and I'm still reeling from that, and also I'm kind of on the receiving end of a cold recently, so you can probably tell from the sound of my voice. So I'm gonna have a little makeshift siesta, so to say. I'm probably gonna shut off for a few hours and then venture out later this evening, and then probably get some food and whatnot, and then have a nice chilly evening in. I think that's the plan. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I have had a few hours to kip, and now I'm up and ready to go, just about. So what I'm going to do for a bit of this evening is just go for a little bit of a slight walking tour of Tirana, so to say. You know, because the whole point is when you first land in a new country, you just want to catch your bearings. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go for a little stroll and see where it takes me. So, here we go, climbing up the pyramid. Oh, I've got to say, just climbing up this pyramid, there's a really nice vantage point already. You can see quite a fair bit of Tirana, and oh, look at that, big up Tring. Big up the Tring reservoirs and all that, which is, Tring was not too far from where I used to live in Leighton Buzzard. Anyway, we did get distracted, but you tell you what, from up here you get some really nice vantage points of the city, and even kind of surrounding it. Like, look at the mountains up there. It's interesting how to know how alpine a lot of the Balkans really are. So that is one thing that I'm gonna get on with throughout my time here, is exploring in and out of Albania, including the two little trips I'm doing. So it's quite interesting being at this monument here, as it has a bit of a dark history to it in a sense. So when this was built in 1988, it was initially done as a monument dedicated to the late Albanian dictator Enver Hoxha. Between 1944 and 1985, Hoxha was basically the supreme leader of Albania. So they adopted, much like the Soviet Union, a communist one-party state. And throughout much of that time, they adopted a lot of isolationism, things like religion were banned, and statewide atheism was mandatory. So Christianity and Islamic influence in the country was completely banned. Even things like not relying on foreign help and all sorts. And yes, it's quite sad it is. And it's fair to say that throughout much of the 20th century, and in turn throughout much of the Cold War, Albania was one of the most isolated countries in the world. And then, of course, his death and then the eventual fall of communism here in 1990, which coincided roughly around the same time as the fall of the Soviet Union and the eventual fall of Yugoslavia. Then, of course, in 1992, eventually, through democratic elections, Albania became a democracy. So and then this building itself, the pyramid that I'm sitting at the moment, this is now a conference center. So I think it's fair to say, speaking of it metaphorically, you're kind of walking over a piece of history, and you're crushing communism. I don't know why I'm making that analogy, but that's how I perceive it. also speaking of the religious influence in Albania, it's quite nice. That's quite a lovely mosque I'm seeing there, and quite interestingly, it's nice to think the first country that I've been to on my travels since I went to Jordan 6 months ago is another country that also has a lot of Islamic influence. So very lovely stuff indeed. Quite a few funky looking sculptures here, just chilling by the bridge, as you do. Okay, so I'm currently standing in Skander's big square at the moment, and there's quite a lot of countries that have like a big central square in their capital city, and I guess this is very much the big central square of Tirana, so that's lovely. Just, you know, nice marble floor and all sorts, lovely statues, again, a mosque there, over there, and then there's a church just in the distance over there, so that you just heard the bells that were ringing out earlier. So again, nice, diverse religious influence in this country. And yeah, it's just nice just to take it all in. You know, I'm quite glad that, you know, on your first day on your travels, you don't want to kind of do everything all at once. So I'm glad that, you know, I've taken today as more of a kind of phased in, catching my bearings kind of day, if that makes sense. But it's been lovely so far, and I'm gonna venture back shortly and pick up some food because I'm starving. And just like that, I am back in my hostel room. I am surprisingly the only one who's here right now, so if it's just myself tonight, I can get a good peaceful night's sleep without bothering anyone, which is always a good shout. I have really enjoyed this first day here in Tirana. I mean, I know it's not been full on as opposed to what I always do when I travel, but today has been a good day to kind of like, you know, get my bearings and, you know, and learn a little bit about, you know, Albania as a country. And what I've seen so far has been quite lovely. You know, going to the Pyramid of Tirana and also to Skander Big Square. There's been some lovely stuff that we've seen so far today, and I'm sure as the days go on we're going to see a bit more of Tirana, and by extension what I'm doing here in a few Balkan countries on this trip. I will say though, I am going to get an early night because I'm just absolutely exhausted. I think what it was because I got up early and I've had this cold recently. That's why I feel a bit out of the loop, and then I'm not feeling quite 100%. Although ironically, whenever I travel, I'm always up for getting up early, but I think today, coupled with that cold, has kind of thrown me off a little bit. But thankfully no jet lag, because of course it's only an hour difference. But anyway, I am gonna sign off for the night. Tomorrow, we are the first full day here in Albania is that we're doing a big hike around Lake Bavila and Gamti Mountain. So there's going to be some really nice scenic views, and certainly going to catch them on here. So yeah, I think it's going to be a lovely little experience nonetheless. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off here for the night, and I'm going to leave you with some advice, and that is always to enjoy yourself, stay safe, and make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. Thank you for watching, and peace.